Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Piccadilly Stampin'. I'm Pamela Pick. So today I'm coming to you with a fun new card using the set Inspiring Snapdragons. Now this is a red rubber stamp set, as you can see. It also comes with a set of matching dies, and if you purchase these together, you can save 10% when you buy them together, which who doesn't like saving just a little bit of money? I'm also going to be using the brand new Full of Life 6x6 DSP, and I'm going to be using it for this beautiful pink and orange side of the paper. So let me show you very quickly in our new catalog. You can find that DSP on page 43. It's the Full of Life. This has some really fun, colorful patterns on here. And I'm going to mix this, even though I'm going to be using this pattern, it's a little bit more subdued, still bright. And I'm going to be using the Inspiring Snapdragons, and you can find that on page 72. And again, when you're looking at this, you have the two different codes here, but look up here at the top, and this is going to give you the bundled price where you save 10%. So let's get going. I'm going to start off with a piece of basic white cardstock. And this is the thick white so that it is just a little bit heavier for a card base. Okay, and then let's take our DSP and let's look at how we want this card to lay, because there's, I need to cut some of this down to fit onto my card base. And I think I like that this bright pink color. So I'm going to take my paper trimmer out and I want to trim this down. Let's see. So this is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So we're going to trim this 5 1/2 and trim off just a bit of this orange piece here. And then we're going to trim it to 4. So we're trimming it, or 4 1/4. We're trimming it right to that card base size. Okay. So I am going to save this. Now let's go ahead and just add this to the front of our card. And I have just like a little bit of sliver here that I will trim down after I get this on. Do you ever do that? You trim it just a smidge off and then you trim it down? Okay. Okay. So I'm just going to trim that little tiny piece off. I must have not been measuring that when I did that exactly the same. Okay, let's see. Here we go. Yeah, it is a little bit long. And I love, look at how tiny that is. I love our trimmer. And I've been using this same blade for like quite some time now. So it's not like it's the super sharpest blade that I have. But okay, so we're going to do this. And then with this extra piece, just to add some color on the inside of the card, I'm going to go ahead and put a line of liquid glue down here. And put this little scrap piece that would normally be thrown away right down here at the bottom. And then that brings some of the color from the outside to the inside. There we go. And I like to place it down on my tray so that way I can get it nice and flat. And then we'll just flip it over and trim off the excess into our little trash bucket. Okay, so now we have the base of the card set up. I have another piece of basic white. This is cut at 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. And I think what we're going to do is some stamping. And I'm going to use some Stampin' Right markers. Now, I have pre-chose the colors that I want to use. And I kind of want to follow the paper. I don't have orange on here, though. I'm using yellow. And then with well, actually, let's just get started and I'll explain my process as I go. So I want to use the largest Snapdragon image. And I'm going to place this down. And let's see. Let's do Melon Mambo. And for the leaves on this, because there's leaves down here, we're going to use the Lemon Lime Twist. Kind of goes in that same color family. And then I'm going to use, for this particular image, I'm going to use the Berry Burst. So I'm going to start off, and you always start lightest to darkest. So I'm going to use the Lemon Lime Twist on the brush side, and we're going to just brush right on the color, right onto the stamp. This is the best, in my opinion, when you use a red rubber stamp. But this is how I can get multiple colors in my image instead of just stamping it into a stamp pad. So we're not going to use a stamp pad today. Okay. Don't worry about if it dries. We're going to huff on it, and our little breath will give the image a little bit of moisture on it to rehydrate that ink. So I'm just kind of randomly going over this. I'm not worried about getting it exactly perfect, but I do kind of want to get some of these edges. Now this is the Melon Mambo. And then I'm going to do the darker color, which is the Berry Burst. And I'm going to go over it, but I'm not going to color the whole thing. I kind of colored the whole thing. So let's just add some highlights maybe on these edges. And I just did a little schnoofer right there on the so it's not like completely Berry Burst, but we have some definite color variation. And since I kind of wiped off a little bit of that here we go, of the green, I'm going to go ahead and put that back on. So then using my breath just to re-moisten this, I'm going to go ahead and huff on it a couple of times. Long stamp. So this is going to give a softer image. So let's just stamp this down. And I'm going to give that a moment for that to transfer. Okay, so you can see I've got the Melon Mambo, and then there's some dark patches of where the Berry Burst. It's okay that some of this did not make, the leaves did not make it onto the image. Let's just keep going. So we're going to put those aside, and let's go with the next largest image. And again, I'm just going to use the same for the greenery, the Lemon Lime Twist. These are the Stampin' Right markers. Now, these are different than our blends. Our blends are an alcohol-based marker, and so you don't want to use those on your red rubber. It's not going to do anything. It may stain your stamp. I don't know. I've never done it. And then I'm going to use the Daffodil Delight, which is the lighter of the two yellows that we're going to use. And I'm going to go over the whole thing. And I don't know if you noticed or not, I'm using the side of the brush tip to just brush it on. That way I'm going to keep that end intact. I'm still going to spread that color, but I'm keeping that end. I don't want to push directly down because then you kind of ruin the ends of your markers. And then I'm going to come back in. Now this is the crushed curry. Again, using that brush tip and on the side, I'm just going to kind of highlight just the way I did with the Berry Burst. So it's going to give a little bit of an orangey tinge to it and darken that up. Okay, so bringing our stamped image back, I'm just going to huff on this a few times to re-moisten that ink. Just, it reminds me of being a little kid where you would do that on the window of the car on a cold day and then draw things in it and your mom would yell at you. That's what, don't get fingerprints all over the car. Okay, so again, I've got some of the images are darker with the crushed curry on there, but it's very, very pretty and it's going to be very coordinating with what we're doing. And then the last image, the smaller one, again, I'm going to just keep with the theme of using the lemon lime twist on the greenery. This is kind of a warm color since we're using Melon Mambo and that peach color. And so I wanted that warmer yellow green. And then I'm going to use, I know this doesn't quite go with it, but that's okay. What we're going to do is I'm going to use the Flirty Flamingo on the brush for our base color for the whole Snapdragon. We're going to come in here and color this in. Instead of stamping in the ink, the brush gives a little bit softer effect when you use the brush markers. And then this is the Poppy Parade. And so I'm going to be very light because this is going to be a pretty bold color. So I'm going to hit these edges where I want a little in the middle, just kind of light, but it's on there. And then bringing my image back in, I'm going to huff on it again. And we'll just stamp that one. Well, I committed to that. I made a mistake and put it down, but we're going to commit to it. Now, that adds a little bit different color, having these two colors out here, but it adds kind of almost like an ombre effect, like yellow to red, you know, the pink to red. Okay, so I'm going to move this aside, and I think this looks very perfect on here for that image, pulling out the colors that I want it to pull out of this orange and pink. So we're going to go ahead and adhere this down. I think this is a great way to use our Stampin' Right markers. Now, all of the markers except for one, which was the crushed curry, all of the markers come from our Brights collection, just in case you were wanting to know. And I did that on purpose so that you could just buy one collection if you wanted to. They just didn't have... you know, I think that's a little off. I'm going to move that up a little bit. There we go. Now, when you put this onto this card base, it just pop. I just love how that pops. So I have a piece of scrap basic white here. We're going to set this aside again. And we're going to do a little embossing. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this with our Emboss Buddy. And I'm going to pull out our Versamark. In the stamp set, there is a Wishing You Strength for a sentiment. I thought that was so awesome. So we're going to come in here and ink this up. And I like to look at the image because the light will show if I've got enough Versamark on there. I may have to stand up. So lining this up, I'm going to, pretty close. Let's make sure I have that straight. Yes, I do. Oh, awesome. I will measure this here in just a minute to tell you the size of this scrap. But I have gold emboss powder. And we're going to emboss this in gold. So let me move this to the edge so I can get a little spoonful here. So when I first started stamping, this was my favorite technique ever, was just the embossing. Okay. So that Emboss Buddy keeps any like oils from our fingers. There's a little piece there that needs some. I got it all now. Yeah. From collecting the embossing powder, collecting onto our project, which I think is awesome, so that we don't have the heat tool infuse that right onto our project when it melts the glue and the emboss powder. Now, I go from underneath, mostly because I'm hoping that I can show you on camera the magic, but also because, there we go, got it to start here. If you go this direction, you blow off some of it, and also the cardstock will bend. Yeah, now it's not curling. And I would rather it curl up, and then I can, not quite done here. Normally, I go underneath. Now this is still a little wet, so don't run your fingers through it. Give it a minute to cool. Can you see that? I don't know. Let me stand up and see if that shows. You see? So it made like that gold. And I'm going to trim this pretty close. I told you I was going to measure this. So let me measure this really quick. This looks to be about 1.25 inches wide. And I'm going to trim this down pretty darn close to about 2.5 inches. So once that's cool, you can touch it. Doesn't take long, but don't run it your finger across it when it is just fresh. Okay. Off of the heat tool, because you will, I'm going to come and just trim this side a little closer so it matches the other side. That's what I love about this trimmer. Look at that. I just trimmed like 1/16 of an inch, maybe a little less than that. Okay. So now, I love that. Very pretty. It looks like maybe I missed just one little spot down here. There we go. On the S and the R on the very bottom, I just missed a little spot of heating that up to melt it. Okay, so bringing our project back in, let's go and adhere this down. Now, I have a thing where I guess I could do it right here, but I love to go off so that your eye isn't just into a square, or a rectangle. I love to go off just a little bit just to break it up. So that's just my preference. You do what you please and take creative liberties. But I also like to, you could top it up if you wanted to. I am going to just adhere it straight down onto the project. Here, there we go. Just my preference. I like things to mail pretty flat. Now this is just colorful on its own. It's beautiful on its own. It doesn't need a whole lot. I am going to bring in the brushed brass butterflies, and we will use some of the butterflies on the projects to go flying around here. Let's see. And I'm going to use 3, and I think I'm going to turn this one and maybe go up a little bit here. There we go. You could also use the dragonflies. We have some of these flat embellishments in birds and dragonflies. Those would be very pretty also. Okay, so this card is just ready to mail. So easy, so pretty, and so much fun. Did not use a stamp pad. We only used our Stampin' Right markers from our Brights collection to make this. So where did I get this inspiration for this card? Because it's absolutely gorgeous. I will tell you where. When you come into our annual catalog and you turn to the page 72 that I told you about, there is a sample right here. Now, theirs is a little different than mine. I didn't have the measurements, and I wanted more of the DSP to show than what they have here. They have a larger piece, and of course, I always go off. That's just my my thing, is to go off the edge a little bit, the border. So it is inspired by the sample that was in here. Now, I'm pretty sure that they use straight colors, and I wanted mine to have more of the variant on that. But, you know, use your catalog as a basis to make your cards. Not all cards have to be fun folds. You can just do simple like this. This is also a good card for someone who doesn't have a Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. You get a lot of bang for your buck if you buy just the Brights collection. Instead of using the crushed curry, I really could have gone with a little pumpkin pie and done a little bit lighter touch to my stamping on here, which would have been fine. And so you get a lot of variety of colors. You could do this in pastels and use a different DSP. Whatever you decide, use the catalog. They are great ways to bounce off some ideas to get started. Also, if you don't have a catalog, look at stampinup.com, go to their website, and you click on things. It's going to show you pictures to give you ideas. So I hope that you enjoyed this card today. Hey, do me a solid and like this video. I would really appreciate it. Follow me, push the subscribe button. I am going to post a link in the description box below to my online store. If you're purchasing anything under $150, please use this current host code. That enrolls you into my perks program. So you guys have a great weekend, and I will be back next week for you, 7 p.m. Live on Facebook, and then I'll come back with another video next week for you. Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.